that I see is that people are crippled. Like their emotions have crippled the lives that they want to live, and they consistently ask, and they ask, how do I stop doing this? How do I stop being in this cycle? How do I stop repeating this thing? No one wants this answer because the answer is, let's just jump into it. So I was actually thinking of doing a podcast, which a lot of people have asked. So this would be like a pilot, I guess, with just us. I mean, I've made like other things, but I'm not too sure on those things. It's weird talking to yourself. It's like I do it all the time, but to show other people that I talk to myself is just a little awkward. So our first topic was uh pain is a part of the process. Oh, that's like a nice little catchphrase. That's like the thumbnail right there. Pain is a part of the process. And we try to avoid pain because we think that by avoiding, we don't have to go through it. And what happens is that we end up creating different kind of pains. So instead of us growing through the things that we're going through, we end up just being buried or suffering through that same process. And I mentioned before, and I mentioned it now, Futsishin, blessed Futsishin, and he has this quote that says that complaining is praying to the devil. It's like the fact that we tend to over glorify the things that we're going through, and we make our life about our struggles and not about the good things. It's giving praise to your enemy. It's literally just dismantling you, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Definitely does. Because what you're saying is your fear or lack of the unknown is greater than the God that you believe in. So basically, you're giving credibility more to your anxiety. You're giving it more to all of the negative things that you could embrace. And in doing so, what you're doing is you're inviting all of those things into your life without even knowing it.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that statement. We're talking about minimalism.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about that. And something that a person mentioned about being a minimalist is if you don't clear this now, then you'll clean this later. So I'm
Yeah.
going to say it one more time because I butchered it the first time. But if you don't clear
Mm,
this now, then you'll clean this later. And
mm,
I think that's uh, it resonates
yeah.
in itself. But if you don't clear your thoughts and you don't start organizing the way that you're looking at things and perceiving things, then you're going to have to end up cleaning things up,
Mm,
a lot of messes, traumas, and things like that. So I do think that it's signing off even your power whenever you are anxious, whenever you're complaining about stuff, you're signing off your power and your effort and your involvement in the situation. Because I think that we're more capable of what we could do given a certain circumstance. And I think that we can persevere a lot more than what we give ourselves credit for. So what we're doing is we're just removing ourselves into the situation and actually being a victim of a circumstance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that truth, right? Because I mean, we've already kind of talked about this, but people that might be watching are just gonna hear or listening. Actually, I'll probably repurpose this for multiple ways. But this is a reality that our brains have so much power, that has so much authority in our lives, and we don't realize that. And we've over spiritualized things that are also practical. Like your brain, literally, like those mantras, right? And we tried affirmations and all these things. We've tried to make those like spiritual. And yes, there's a spiritual component to it, but it's not limited to that. The reality is that what you consistently bring into your life, what you consistently repeat, what you do, you will become, because your brain, that's how every single self-help book has always used that same thing. They always end up the same way because that's what it is. Your brain has that power. And a lot of people have been hurt or been scarred so much that they live in a survival mindset. So everything around them that could be good, that could be positive, that could help them grow, they only look at the negative connotation of it. They only look at the things that they had to survive instead of the things that are allowing them to live. Too many people are suffering from choosing, because let's be real, at the end of the day, this is a decision. We decide what we're going to allow in our lives. We decide what we're going to believe. We decide what we're going to continue. If someone tells me something bad about me or about things I'm living in, and I focus on that thing is going to be my life. It's inevitable. You are going to create a truth out of something that if you had spoken against it, if you had spoken into yourself, if you had trusted that you were made for something more, which funny enough, shameless plug would be the name of this podcast, made for more, or made from or Made more. That was it. Wow. I think it's in the name literally. But if you understood that, if you actually lived in that, it would give you the freedom to be who you were and not the obligation to be who you're made to be. Like you're being forced into this survivor, like literally trying to survive. And your brain is going to do that. It's going to try to unpack things and create scenarios because we're chronic overthinkers. And we create scenarios that likely don't even exist. But because of the need to survive, we create different things that we're trying to like run away from. I think a lot of people are suffering from anxiety, not from things that exist, but from things that they're thinking of, things that they're creating, scenarios that they're creating.
As an overthinker myself, I've been reading a lot about it. I'm by no means an expert. I'm just living in it, so I could just relate to a lot of the things that you said. But the reason why we overthink is because our brain is trying to come up with a safety mechanism to keep us safe. So whenever we're uncomfortable, we retreat or whatever your coping mechanism may be, you know. And those are one of the things, again, in overthinking, we become over analyzers and sometimes we paralyze ourselves and actually sentence ourselves to whatever bad things that can happen and will happen just because of the fact that we're not moving, you know. And inertia it's intense. It's incredible to see if you know, if an object is in movement, it will remain in movement and it will gain momentum. But the minute that you stop,
Newton's
the
law of
minute that
motion.
you
That's what
know
you're
it,
saying.
the minute that you stop, the minute that you just pump the brakes for a second and just think things through or try to bring logic into it or just doubt yourself. I mean, it's biblical. Look at what happened. You know, Peter was in the water, he was walking on water.
Mhm.
And the minute that he realized what he was doing, that he was accomplishing the things that Jesus was telling him
Mhm.
himself, he's like, you could do these things and more. And the minute that he realized his surroundings and where he is, he dropped to the floor right
Yeah.
away. So, you know, it all goes back. It's proven. And if you can't believe me, if you can't believe what you're saying, then, you know, go back to that book because that book has more truth than it
Yeah.
is the truth.
But oh no, that's the same thing. Like more people doubt themselves and doubt the ability that's in them. Like people are creating the life that they're afraid to live because they're so hyper focused on the pain that the pain becomes the only reality they know. And then this becomes the thing that limits so many people. We were talking about this before, that some people are just really good at being super confident. Like they're not good at what they do, but because they give this confidence, their life ends up being this particular thing. People see that, people recognize that, and because you believe so much in you, some people are like, maybe we should believe in them too, and then they create this reality for themselves that allows them to be there. But the adverse is true too, and some of us are so scarred and so afraid and so traumatized and so living in this state of response instead of this state of growth that we create the lives we're afraid of. Like the thing that we consistently are like, I know tons of people, and this again because of the social media platform that I have. I've had people reach out to me and send me messages, and I can't respond to all of them because it's a lot. It's very overwhelming, but there are some that I see, and one of the biggest things that I see is that people are crippled. Like their emotions have crippled the lives that they want to live, and they consistently ask, and they ask, how do I stop doing this? How do I stop being in this cycle? How do I stop repeating this thing? No one wants this answer because the answer is you got to stop it. Like you actually, everyone wants things to be solved. Everyone thinks that there's going to be like a podcast they're going to listen to that's going to solve their problems. That they think there's going to be a therapist that they're going to go to is going to fix everything. They're going to think it's a retreat or an event, and none of that matters. You are responsible for you, and that's scary and that's awesome. It's scary because you are responsible for you. But it's awesome because you are responsible for you. Everything you do, every step you take, every every move you make, whatever that song is, every single thing that you do, it is on you. And you have this freedom to create the life that you desire, but it's completely on you. And you also have the responsibility of not being who you used to be. And we have this tendency to complain about the person we are without changing who we are.
It's intimidating, but it's also relieving at the same time
Mm.
because once you realize that you have the power to change all of that and change your reality and make decisions to change your reality, then everything around you changes and everything simultaneously looks differently because you start looking at things differently. And there's a saying that I read today that it says whether or not you're involved or participating in it, it's still happening. So whether you
Mm-hmm.
choose to make a change, whether you choose to not make a change, it's still happening. Life is still happening. The clock is still ticking. Things are going down,
Hmm.
but it's up to you. And
Yeah.
again, it's intimidating, but it's also relieving to know that everything can change the moment that you decide that you're sick of the reality that you're living in. And I mean, you go to the gym, so you know what this process is like, but we talk about pain, without pain you can't see the other side, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when you're going to the gym, what you're doing, I mean, you could explain it way better than I can, but when you're going to the gym, you're intentionally causing damage, micro tears, right? You're intentionally causing pain to yourself. Who in the right man really does that or wants to do that? But what you're doing is growth. You're causing growth. You're forcing growth. You're the technical term would be putting a load or a heavier load on your body so that it could respond. And these micro tears is what causes the growth. And the analogy is the same with growth in life. If we don't have these micro tears and we're comfortable and we're coddled through life, we're never going to see what we're truly capable of. I know that we were talking before about experiences, and I said I shared one of my experiences with the studio, and I said that it was a blessing and a curse because in a way it was a blessing because I was forced to not have any other option but to succeed, and I
Yeah.
couldn't see any other answer to whatever circumstance I was in front of, but succeeding. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to make this work? I'm going to call everybody that I can. I'm going to network with everyone. I'm going to learn things that I never learned. I'm going to apply whatever I could apply. I'm going to connect with people to learn more things or to add value to myself. I never for once thought, okay, what's going to happen if this fails, or because it just wasn't an option. I didn't choose to receive that as that reality. But what ended up happening was that there were micro tears in
Mm.
my life and there was growth. I didn't know how to work a camera. I didn't know how to do a lot of the things that I said that I did know how to do. And within days, I was learning and I immersed myself in all of the things that I needed to do or I needed or was required of me to sustain the studio, but also sustain myself and sustain my family and sustain my mindset because
Yeah.
I really couldn't accept failure. So, I mean, without pain, there can't be any type of progress. And that gets related to everything in life. If you go back to it, Jesus never once said that you're going to live a very comfortable life, that everything is going to be good if you follow me, that all of your circumstances and problems are going to magically go away. He didn't promise that. I think he promised the complete
Total
opposite.
opposite. Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
yo, carry a cross and let's ride.
In the
And,
words of Dominicans, "Tú vas a pasar pela."
so pasa tu pela and go through it. But just know that on the other side, things are going to be different. There's two things that are going to happen. Either you're going to find out that this wasn't for you, or you're going to find on the other side of things, you're going to find the version of you that you never thought was even capable of experiencing. And that is the beauty of life, that we have to go through those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I always share the story whenever I talk about healing and the process of healing. And I have a torn labrum. So my labrum's right here. It's literally just torn. It's an elective surgery, and I tore it playing baseball and all that stuff. And it was a thing I loved to do. And I always equate that to anger because the reason that I got injured was because it was an angry response to a situation that ended up making my in the middle of a play, making everything terrible. But one big analogy with it was the healing process, the process of therapy, of going to like physical therapy to fix my arm. And the thing was that every time I would go to therapy, it's excruciating. It would be a process of putting my arm through pain so that it could eventually get back to the thing that it was made to do. Like it got to the point where I can move and I can do this. Like I can't throw baseball because that's interiorly torn, but I couldn't move my arm at all. Like my shoulder, it would be absolute pain. And the process of putting it through that pain gave it the perseverance to be what it is now. A lot of people are afraid to do the things that they have been hurt in or they have failed in before because they're scared of the pain.
Mm,
But without that activeness, without that pain, without that therapy, without that structure, you are just going to be hindered. You're handicapping yourself for the rest of your life. The irony of that, that's actually very ironic because you're leaving yourself in a pain and fear that one day you'll feel the same pain. You won't heal what's in there now because you're scared to touch it. And it's impossible to heal a wound that you refuse to go near. It's like telling a doctor, yeah, I have this huge gash on my leg, but don't touch it. Don't come near it. Don't put anything on it. Just leave it alone. If I ignore it, it's gonna go away. It's not gonna go away. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get infected. And what happens with infection? It spreads to your body. And when it spreads to your body, every part of your body dies. A lot of people are walking around dead because they're afraid to touch the wound. They're afraid to go to the place that needs healing. They're afraid to fix that thing, and this is why they're suffering. And I think we've made this so common. Like I think this whole avoidant mindset that we have, like we've made it so common that we just say, you know what, this is who I am. I'm 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 this brokenness, I'm this broken person in this broken place, and I'm just gonna continue to be broken. And you weren't made to be broken. Like you weren't. This is not who God has designed you to be. This is not what you are. You're not the mess that has made you. But so many people have made home in their mess. And this is why we don't heal. This is why we just keep that whole thing. I had a whole talk about this actually, that they asked me to come speak about generational curses. And I don't think this is how they thought I was going to talk about this because obviously my background's in science, you know this, but if anyone else listening, my background's in science. So but obviously I'm very spiritual. I deal with a lot of things in general, the occult and all these scary things. So the group that invited me to go speak about generational curses, they thought that I was going to approach this from like a super spiritual and like demonic stuff and your family's possessed. And my first response when I stood up there, I smiled and I said, you know, guys don't have generational curses. You have generational habits. Like a lot of you have been living lifestyles not because your family's cursed. And be clear, sometimes it is the case, not because your family's cursed, but because you have done what you have been taught. You
oof.
think that you're going to be a drunk because your father was a drunk. You think
Say
you're
that
going to
one
be
more
this
time.
because this, that. We have generational habits. We don't have generational curses. And in healing and in every aspect, we do things that we see other people around us do. Like this is why you as a father is so important that the image that your son sees, your daughter sees, your kids see, the image that they see is one of love, right? Is one of response that they know that they
Absolutely.
have this relationship with you because we tend to make these gaps that don't allow us to break patterns, break habits, break traditions. We do these things. Now, again, I got to be clear. There is the spiritual, like there is stuff that is a cult and all that stuff. But typically, most often, the things that we don't heal are the things that we repeat. And for our families, we don't have generational curses; it's generational habits. It's an unfortunate thing, but think about it. Money, finances. Not a lot of us suffer because our parents didn't know finances. They did just, maybe they were living hand to fist, like hand to mouth. They're paycheck to paycheck. They couldn't break out of these things because no one ever taught them.
You know what's crazy about that is that the same way that those habits could happen, those could also cause traumas. And
Mm,
that's why, let's say, for example, you gave the example of a parent being an alcoholic or
yeah,
mismanaging money. So
yeah.
the next person says, I am so fearful of living like this
Mm,
that I'm going
mm-hmm.
to be extra weary of every penny that I spend. Or I'm not going to take one drop of
Yeah,
alcohol because I know what that
yeah,
is. And those habits, like how you said, those habits could either make or break someone's future. And that's why people say that they're generational curses or however it is, those terms. But exactly how you said, I mean, I have to look to my kids and I have to make sure that on a day to day basis, as hard as it is, I have to look in the mirror and ask myself, am I completely satisfied with the way that I am living my life?
yeah,
And if I am not, how can I become the best version of myself to them so that they could experience the best version and they could experience my best version in just by overflow of me trying my best. I think
Yeah.
that it goes right back to the pain, right? If you're not clearing the mess, then you're cleaning it later.
Yeah.
And I give props to people that are consistently, whether they're fumbling, they're they're making a whole bunch of mistakes. I give people those credits that are actually trying and are getting up after every mistake than people that are saying and signing off and saying, this is how I am, this is how I've always
Yeah.
been. Because what you're doing is you're just relinquishing and everything, your involvement in everything. And you're just basically saying, I'm not willing to put in the work, because if you were willing to put in the work, then you wouldn't be saying those things. This is how you are. No, you could change that. You could become a person that you wouldn't even recognize in the mirror if you were to give yourself the opportunity. But in this pain, exactly how you said with your but what is it? Your torn.
Labrum, part
Oh,
of the shoulder,
there you
like
go.
a
Well,
muscle in the
it's
shoulder.
funny how we were talking about, in order to make growth in the gym, you need to go through these micro tears. But you have to also, and when you're going through physical therapy, when you're going through those things, you have to revisit that pain. You
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
experience that pain to get
Yeah.
through it, to be healthy again.
Yeah.
So you have to touch those things. You have
Yeah.
to go through those processes. You have to live in it in order
Mhm.
for you to be better. And it's just inevitable. You can't. I mean, I fractured my finger, my ring finger, and I'm a lefty. So on my left hand, you can see the bump still. Yep, there it is. And they told me I needed to go through physical therapy. I was stubborn and I didn't go. And I went through excruciating pain. And guess what? Because of my stubbornness, there are certain things that I cannot do with my ring finger, me as a guitarist. There's certain things that I cannot do as a result of me being stubborn. So it's exactly what you're saying. If you're not willing to see that pain, if you're not willing to clear it, because I could have cleared it in going and experiencing that pain in physical therapy. I could have cleared that so that I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But now I have to clean it. I have to
Gotta live
clean
with
up
it.
my mess, and
Yeah.
I have to work extra hard and unlearn things and habits that I've compensated with my other fingers. It's just a simple thing as one finger, but I rely heavy on this one finger when I'm playing an instrument. And I'm a lefty, so, but I definitely relate to what you're saying.
Yeah, no, and that's and but there's something that just came to mind when you said that too. It's that we build those habits, but then we can also build positive habits, and this is there's a misnomer. We won't call it a myth, but there's a misnomer that it takes 30 days to build or break a habit. That's actually not true. It takes 90 days. It takes 3 months to be closer to the reality of it. But the problem is that for a lot of us, we don't want to do the little things. Like I always equate this to cleaning my room. My man, sometimes I just throw things around and I look at this and I'm like, how do I live like this? Like I have to clean this, but I don't want to clean it. But then the moment I start doing one small thing, it snowballs. Like my room, I'll just fold a shirt and I'm like, you know what? Let me fold this one too. Oh, let me put these pants away. Oh, let me move this here. And it just becomes like this snowball effect of things getting done. And then in the next 15 minutes, my room is spotless. Like it's like I'm like, wow, this is a room. Like this is respectable. I think and a lot of us, we're afraid to do the little things first, and that's why we don't get the big things done. We're afraid to structure ourselves in a way where we put ourselves in a position to be hurt, and put ourselves in a position to be let down. We put ourselves in a position to be afraid. We don't do the little thing, and we expect these massive things to change in our lives. And I see again, because of all these people, and I appreciate all these people that message me and stuff like that. Even if I don't get back to, oh yeah, if you're reading it, you're hearing this, whatever. I appreciate you because it gives me some insight that the things that I am sharing are actually doing something. Like I'm not just speaking to my camera and then to social media for no one else to get anything out of it. But it also gives me insight to the things that people are going through. And a lot of times when people reach out to me, it's because they're struggling with parts of their lives that they just need somebody else to like smack them in the face. Like wake up. You know like if you're hearing this, you know the answer. You know what you need to fix. You know what you need to do. You know where you're failing at. No one needs to tell you. But until you do something about it, you're just gonna keep knowing. It's knowledge means nothing without action. We can read 1,000 books, 1,000 self-help books. You can know scripture back and forth. You can know everything you can ever possibly think of. And if you do nothing, it means nothing.
As bars. I mean, going back. exactly how you said with your room. It's the showing up.
Yeah.
It's as simple as just showing up.
Yeah.
We provide all of the excuses, we provide all of the buts, we make all of the friction. But the minute that we just show up